So the next issue, which is interesting to consider in relationship to the internet and the World Wide Web, is the issue of censorship and filtering. And is information restricted? Is it restricted from being shown to you? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. But it's not always malicious or overt. And often it's because like Google will filter its results because it's trying to find you what it thinks is going to be the most interesting result for you. It's trying to find what it thinks you want, because Google's entire job is to give you what you want. And you go looking, searching for something, and Google tries to find what you're looking, searching for, and then give it to you. And so by definition, by giving you just a little small selection of this vast web and the internet, the Google is filtering out a lot of different results. And Google will actually look at a whole bunch of different criteria to try to figure out what is it you want. And they'll look at like, what kind of computer are you using? You know, is it a Mac? Is it a PC? Is it new? Is it old? What kind of browser are you using? What area of the world are you in? So they look at all these different factors to help try to figure out which results to give to you. And that's known as filtering results, or filter bubbles, because Google gives different search results for every single person who uses it. And that's pretty amazing. And so, we do get restrictions or limitations. We get limited results, obviously. In that sense, we're relying upon Google to give us what it thinks we want. And so that's just one way that, when we think about the internet and the World Wide Web, one way that information is delivered to us or not delivered to us, because a lot of other stuff is left out, right? And so some people say, hey, if I am a liberal and I'm always just, hearing things about liberals, I'm never getting any contrary opinions. And so sometimes instead of just giving me what I want, maybe it's the moral responsibility of these companies to give me what I don't want and show me some contrary opinions so that it balances out my perspective a little bit better. So that's like one of the perspectives on those filter bubbles. And then, of course, we have the issue of censorship. And censorship has been debated throughout the history of humanity, because it's impossible to decide collectively what's appropriate or inappropriate, because that's a subjective experience. And everybody has a different idea of what is appropriate and inappropriate. That said, there are some really clear delineations about what is not appropriate in our society. For example, child pornography is absolutely illegal in our country, and as it should be everywhere in the world. And so that those kinds of materials, definitely, they're X. They're not allowable on the internet. They're not allowable anywhere as it should be. But then we get into like other issues, like should people be able to put information up about how to build an atomic bomb, or should that be taken down? Should that be censored? Should everybody in the world be able to watch the video of how to build an atomic bomb? Right? And how would you even go about censoring that or pulling that kind of information out? So it's a really kind of a sticky area. There are a bunch of different laws. If you go to Wikipedia and search for internet censorship in the United States, there's a bunch of different laws about, Child's Internet Protection Act, Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, Child Online Protection Act, Communication Decency Act, Trading with the Enemy Act, right? So different laws that have already been enacted to restrict some of the stuff, which is absolutely just sort of off the charts, not acceptable, or in the best interest of everybody to not have certain information out there. So that's just like a brief introduction to censorship and what material is appropriate and inappropriate. And I'm not really a legal person, so my mind kind of swims when I start reading about these different acts, but you could come kind of check them out. And of course, the enforcing of not having things be on the internet is very difficult. All right, so that's internet censorship and filter bubbles, and then last thing in this area is protecting intellectual property. Because should we just allow anybody to be able to put anything up that they want to put up? What if they don't own it? And intellectual property is like Bruce Springsteen, right? He owns all of his songs. Or you write a poem, you own the poem, or a book, or a novel, or screenplay, or software, Microsoft Office, or Microsoft Windows. Should I just be able to put Microsoft Windows up and say, hey, anybody can download it? Should I be able to put up all of Led Zeppelin's albums and say, hey, download all of Led Zeppelin's albums? and that would be obviously against the law. And so there have been different acts, ACTA, SOPA, PIPA, and CISPA, which have looked at restricting intellectual property and and finding some more control, giving the government more control over at least the American and how America can influence the internet, give America more control over American internet and worldwide. But they have all always been hotly contested, and none of them have yet passed, right? And it's still illegal, right, to put stuff up, and the government can bust you if you do it, but they can't go out and just well, it's kind of a hard thing to say. They can go out and just shut stuff down. They can go out and just shut stuff down if you're doing it, but it doesn't quite give them the powers they're looking for with some of these other things, what these acts are asking for. So that's just another side of it is protecting intellectual property, and so that's another way, right, where obviously there are some restrictions on the internet and the World Wide Web, at least here in America. All right, so those are some things about the internet and the World Wide Web related to all the information that's out there and how much of that do you actually have access to. And it's actually a phenomenal amount. It's a phenomenal amount. And the things which are restricted are just things that are just blatantly legal and inappropriate, and for which you would get in trouble in any arena if you were doing those behaviors, or and not just necessarily on the internet. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it's restricted. And then, of course, you have the filter bubbles. Go check this video out here. It's a TED Talk. Eli Pariser, Beware Online Filter Bubbles. It's a cool video about how Google filters changes its search results for each and every individual. So go take a look at that. Eli Pariser, however you say his name. Beware Online Filter Bubbles. It's a TED Talk. All right, that's the internet and the World Wide Web, and how much of the information on the internet and the World Wide Web do you have access to? And the answer is quite a bit. But good luck making sense of it all.